Story 1: The Cosmic Owl and the Whispering Strangers. When I was about 13, I believed extraterrestrial beings were following me around. I used to have sudden urges to go outside in the middle of the night and look up at the stars. Often, I would see triangular-shaped aircrafts hovering over me, then disappearing. The house I lived in seemed to be haunted because I heard voices and saw non-human shaped shadows through the corner of my eye. The creepiest part was when I would go places, an owl would follow me around. Everywhere I went, the same owl would be within my surroundings. The owl would also let me get close to it, but it was always a few feet too high for me to actually touch it. This lasted about 6 months. One night, I was in bed, fully awake, and scared because I felt like I was surrounded by a group of people. They were speaking in whispers, and I couldn't make out what they were saying. Then, I remember being lifted and thrown on my bed. I was in a state of panic, only to find my dad with his gun drawn in the doorway. He said that he had heard noises, and when he opened my bedroom door, I was floating, so he ran and grabbed his gun. After that episode, the owl and the aircraft, the shadows and the feelings of being watched suddenly vanished. Story 2: One day we'll all learn the truth. My mother tells a story of her and her friend. Let's call her friend Lisa. When my mom and Lisa were teenagers, they were up on the roof of Lisa's house, and they see a bright light in the sky. Next thing they know, the light is gone. Thing is, they think they've been on the roof for like 15 minutes, but something like 3 hours passed. My mom doesn't remember anything about what happened during that time, and Lisa simply refuses to talk about it. She would answer my mom with things like, "I don't know," and "just drop it," for a long time. A couple months later, my mom moves away and loses contact with Lisa for about 10 years. She finally meets up with her again and immediately notices that something is odd about Lisa. She appeared very distant to her, with a very dreamy demeanor, like she was really happy and at peace for no good reason. After they talk for a bit, Lisa brings up the incident on the roof. My mom says she still really doesn't remember anything about it, but Lisa remembers. She remembers everything. She said that at first, it was all in bits and pieces, and she couldn't remember any of it clearly. She was confused, scared, and wanted to avoid discussing it. Then, as time passed, she began to remember more of it. She remembers it all clearly, and she remembers the other 3 times she was abducted after that clearly as well. At first, they paralyzed her somehow, and did all sorts of invasive experiments on her. But by the most recent time, they stopped probing her and began to talk with her. They didn't speak English or any other human language, but she could understand everything they said, even though she can't speak their language herself. Apparently, they told her all sorts of things. Stuff about space, Earth itself, and most shockingly, predicted years beforehand that she would get pregnant in a specific year, and it would also be a stillborn, and that she would never be able to have children again. They also told her that it was not their fault, and that they even made an attempt to save her from this fate, but remained unsuccessful. They also told her that they had abducted my mother another time after that first incident. My mom says she has no recollection of any other encounters, but she does have reoccurring nightmares of being abducted. but she's almost sure that they're just that, nightmares. Anyway, Lisa tells my mom that every time she speaks with them, she comes to understand the truth more and more. When Mom inquires what the truth is, Lisa just says, "You will know eventually." And she says that once she learned of the truth, everything became wonderful. My mom has seen her a few more times over the years, and we still live in another state from her. And she apparently has a pretty normal life and doesn't obsess over alien stuff like some abductees do. She only ever brings it up in passing, so it's not a central part of her daily life. Story 3. Teen encounters the real-life Men in Black. Before I tell my story, I'd like to say that I am a complete skeptic and question anything and everything supernatural. I think extraordinary claims should always require extraordinary evidence. Even to this day, I will never be able to empirically prove what I experienced. I am currently 26 years old. This happened on June 16th of 2007. I remember it vividly. It was immediately embedded into my long-term memory when it all happened. In psychology, I believe they refer to these events as flashbulb memories. Anyway, I was living in my parents' home at the time. It was a pretty stormy night. The wind was gusting slightly more than usual. Rain was coming down violently, your typical crackles of thunder and lightning. I was playing World of Warcraft at the time, enjoying the idea that I had a legitimate excuse not to go out and do anything. I was about to finish one of the longest chain quests in the game when the internet goes out. I tried for about 30 anxious minutes to get the internet to work, and you guessed it, nothing. I head to my room frustrated. Here I am, home alone. No internet and irritated as hell. My parents at the time were out on a work-related event. I remember laying on my bed just staring at the ceiling. I turned my head to look at my old retro alarm clock. It read 6:18 p.m. I immediately sprung up, eyes wide open, startled as hell. I crawl to my window that faces the front door, and again, I peek outside my window to see 3 tall men literally dressed in your typical FBI-looking black suits. One had what looked to be like a manila folder or something, and the other had what I have now identified as a Geiger counter. And the other one was beating my door with his huge fist. I head to the door, not really thinking much of it. I honestly thought they were church people just soliciting their beliefs. I open the door. The one man nearest the door who was knocking greets me in a very monotone voice, pulls out a badge, and says he and his colleagues need to check the water source from the house's faucets. I asked them a bunch of questions. Turns out that they were in fact the FBI, and someone had allegedly tried to poison the city's water. I called my parents to let them know what was going on. They okayed the situation. The guys in the suits didn't even check the water in the house. They just had some other group of government guys show up and check. I tried to ask if there was a motive or if it was a terrorist attack. They simply said they couldn't talk about it in detail. Then, out of nowhere, all the lights in the house go out. It's pitch black. The guy in the suit tells everyone to stay calm. I want everyone to stay calm. What we're experiencing now is just a regular power outage. We're going to move on, get done with our job. The guys taking water samples turn on their flashlights. As one of the flashlights flashes over the tallest suited man, I see a reflection from his face. There was metal under his face. The guy with the flashlight quickly directs the light somewhere else. A moment later, the guy with the flashlight says, "Sir, it has begun." The suited guy with the Geiger counter turns it on. The thing just starts going haywire. Not even 3 seconds later, it felt as if I was being pulled into a million different directions. I could not see anything at first, just excruciating pain. I thought I was in the process of being disintegrated alive. Out of nowhere, I see nothing but white. I literally thought I was in what religious people call heaven. A man appears to me and smiles, swinging his arm in an inviting way as if I were entering a ballroom dance or a party. I try to walk, but nothing. Then, the white room gets sucked into itself, and I see my life flashing before my eyes. I see everything. Disneyland at 5, my first kiss at 15, watching 9/11 happen on TV with my mom and dad, everything. I see Earth suspended in space. I'm watching Earth from above, and then I fall. I'm falling. Heart racing. Numbness. Disbelief. I see the ground getting closer and closer. I know this is it, and I know I will die. Before I hit the ground, I hear a monotone voice of the suited man say in my head, "Do not, no matter what." I woke up in my bed with a cold sweat and panic. I freaked the hell out and ran downstairs to find my parents cooking dinner. I run back upstairs to see what time it is. 6:22 p.m. I was relieved to find out it was a dream. But it gets creepy. I go back downstairs and ask my parents when they got home. They told me they'd been home as it was their day off. I asked how their company event went, and they said it was last week. I asked them what time I fell asleep, and they told me they didn't know I was sleeping. I go to my computer and find that my World of Warcraft account was logged in where I left off before the internet went down. I checked my computer for the date, and it was the 23rd. I have literally no memory of a full week. I try to recall what happened in my dream, but it was a blur. I go back upstairs and see that it looked like someone went through my closet. I searched around and freaked the hell out some more. The exact same Geiger counter the alleged FBI agent was holding was in my closet. I've never told anyone about this until now. I still have the Geiger counter and don't really know what to do with it. I've since spent the last decade trying to put the pieces together. I just live day by day as an ordinary person, hoping they don't return.